4 7-inch singles, 4 different coloured vinyl, lime green, blue, white and orange. What is it that links these beautiful records together? We shall be revealing all later in the podcast. Stay tuned. Hello everybody, my name is Mark Roland and welcome to It's All About Vinyl. I've got a new co-host.
Hello.
This is Isaak. Isaac's here because Push couldn't make it today. Isaak is the... What are you?
I am the front section editor.
Yeah.
So
of Electronic Sound magazine.
Yes, exactly. So the first 30 pages roughly of the magazine, covering news, introducing articles on new artists, that sort of thing. Okay,
I'll ask you a little bit more about that. We'll fill a bit in. But So later in the podcast, we're going to reveal the big reveal of what it is that connects these 4 7-inches. Also, we've got a little interlude from Adam Buxton, which will come later on, so stay tuned for that as well. But in the meantime, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the front section of Electronic Sound and what does it do? What's it for?
Is a hard question. Not to big myself up, just because it's a random sort of collage of things. And what I mean by that is that there's about 30 news pieces in each magazine. That might be from anything from an event to a bit of cat furniture to a synthesizer. It could be really anything. And so kind of gathering those bits is sometimes, how would you say, like maddening / enthralling. But yeah, doing that really. And then we have the pulse columns, which are about 300 words on a new artist. So those are kind of largely people who haven't had an album out. They might have an EP.
Okay.
And then the other stuff that we do in the front is we have 3 regular features. So Time Machine, Landmarks and Under the Influence, which Under the Influence should never be shortened. That's, to the acronym.
No.
But it often does in production channels.
Let's not do that. We'll leave that to everybody else's imagination.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So Under the Influence in this issue is... Who is it? It is Steve Davis of the Utopia Strong, who you spoke to recently.
Of course, yeah.
Then we also have Time Machine, which is basically going back to a particular moment in history. So that might be... I should really prepare for this.
Well, you're working on the new one, so
yeah,
you're always like 2 months in advance, aren't you? So the issue that's out now is you finished so long ago.
Yeah, it's unhelpful, time machining. This one is about the birth of the Minimoog.
Oh, yes.
So that's our writer Joe Silver going back to how that kind of almost accidentally came about. The next one's actually going to be... This is the next issue, which is, sneak peek. Can I do this?
I don't know if you should.
I'm going to do it because of whatever.
Okay, it's your section.
It's about Bowie appearing on a ITV series.
Oh, okay.
Back in the day.
Great.
Do you know about
that? No, but let's keep our powder dry on that one.
Exactly.
That sounds good.
And then the final one is just Landmarks, which is we take an iconic track from history and ask the artist to explain it.
I think it's, is it The Grid in this one?
Yeah, Swamp Thing.
That's right, yeah. So that's a great story, very interesting. And also, I always think that the front section of Electronic Sound sort of sets the tone in a way. It's sort of the personality of the magazine,
Yeah.
So you can dip in and out of it. There's lots of different things to read in there, but it gives you a sort of an introduction into the features.
Yeah, you hope so. I suppose it's like the starter to the main course.
I like it.
And I think in many
album's
ways,
like pudding.
Yeah, if you're willing. I think in many ways that's how it should ideally be. And I think it's gone through lots of... I've been doing the front section since like issue 65. And so it's gone through various iterations and kind of ideas. You start going down one track and then maybe at some point that feels like you've done it enough and then you go somewhere else. But largely that's the idea.
the ever-shifting front section wonderment.
Yeah, well,
it's great.
That's a really good sale.
I like the front section a lot. It's always there's a couple of things actually in this month's issue which really stood out to me. Which one of them was the what are they? I can't remember who makes them. Record cases. There we go.
Oh yeah,
Tone Optic record cases.
Yeah, I know. Those are pretty stunning, aren't they?
Yeah, and I thought they look great.
Yeah.
I would like some of those.
Yeah.
That would be very nice. And then I saw how much they are and slightly changed my mind. But so
that is a problem, I would say, with doing the front, where it's like there are so many things that you could get. Yeah. You know, and I hope it doesn't piss the readers off too much.
It's kind of aspirational, I guess. You look at it and go, one day I'll get one of those.
Yeah, one day.
And there are things in there like this. What's this? The light that never dims, a lamp. The sort of art, piece of art, lamp.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
You know, £11,000.
That's about you're definitely going to piss some people.
You're not
off.
going to have that in your house, but it's nice to look at.
Yeah,
great. Okay, well, so now we know what Isaak does. You may well be appearing in the future. Push will be back soon, I'm sure, but maybe we'll rotate. I don't know.
Yeah,
it could happen.
All three.
It's a bit like when your striker goes down, or they refuse to play.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the Push is refusing to play. Don't get me wrong. But maybe you bring in a substitute and they score more goals.
I wonder who I am then. Am I like Sol Campbell? And
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. No, not Sol Campbell.
No.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, I could be Sol Campbell.
Okay. Obviously, I remember Sol Campbell, but he's an old footballer, isn't he?
Yeah. But I know I'm trying to audiences.
Okay. All right. So, what we'll do, we'll go to a little break. When we come back, I said we would have a little interlude from Adam Buxton.
Yeah.
So we'll do that, and then that's going to lead us into some interesting chit chat. A break. See you in a sec. If you're enjoying the podcast, thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate it. And you can help support us just by buying something from our shop. Welcome back. I said we would have a little interlude with Adam Buxton. The reason for this is because in the new issue of Electronic Sound, I interviewed Adam Buxton. In fact, he sat here. I sat there. We didn't film it. We just recorded it because he's off on tour with his band. They're going to be touring in May. It's currently mid-April. Off the back of his album Buckle Up, which is a bunch of tracks that he's been recording, like a lot of things he talks about in his podcast, that took a lot longer than the record company wanted it to. But
why is that?
Well, I think he just, I think one of the things he wanted to do, he said to me, he didn't want it just to be a bunch of knocked off jingles, even though the label said, you could just do a bunch of knocked off jingles. He wanted to do something a bit more ambitious. So he overthought it and worked really hard on it. And but it's a good fun listen. And as I say in the piece, which you can pick up from electronicsound.co.uk, the new magazine, to read all about it, the album is a kind of sort of fits into the Adam Buxton world of various activities that he does. And the tour, he's going to be playing tracks from the album. He's got Joe Mount from Metronomy in the band. In fact, I think the band is half of Metronomy or something.
Oh, really? Oh.
But there's lots of in-between banter as well. So it's as I said in the piece, it's a bit like, was the album an excuse almost to create a new live show?
Yeah. So he was quite self-conscious about being seen as someone who's just like been given a free pass to go and make an album because he's famous?
Definitely, I think so, yeah. And he's at pains to sort of put himself in this hierarchy of musicians where he's right at the bottom, the sort of, right below the Tin Pan Alley and the Chancers and the indie bands who accidentally get well known. He's way below here. But it's better than that. Anyway, we talked quite a lot about electronic music, unsurprisingly. He loves electronic music. And there was as often happens with interviews where somebody mentions something, we chat about it very briefly, and then afterwards I sort of go down a rabbit hole with it and wish I'd known more about it at the time. But I'll play this little excerpt and then I'll share with you my post-chat research. So here we go.
And I liked sci-fi, and I liked robots, and I liked anything that sounded futuristic. And everything like that was exciting to me, and I loved Star Wars, and
I guess Blade Runner came out that year as well, didn't it?
Yes, 82. Yeah,
that would have been a bit of Vangelis.
And I adored that, and obviously that soundtrack. Even though I didn't fully appreciate how good that soundtrack was. It was just part of this film that I loved, And it was only later that I actually went out and bought the soundtrack and appreciated how extraordinary it was. But obviously it was such a massive part of making that film feel the way it did. So I loved that. I loved Gary Numan.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought he was great, and I liked his image and everything robot-y I responded to. And Gary Numan did a version of one of his songs, or maybe it was an original song that he did for a jeans advert. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Don't Be a Dummy.
Yeah, that's right. Was it Lee or Wrangler or something?
Lee, I think you're right, yeah.
And
And they used to play that
cool,
at the movies,
yeah.
And it had lots of mannequins.
Was he in that advert, or was it someone who sort of looked a bit?
I think it just had mannequins.
That's right, yeah.
So I don't think he was in it. I might be wrong. But I remember going to the movies a lot that year because I was at prep school, and my mum would come and take me out a couple of weekends a term. We'd go to Brighton and go to the movies, and it was so exciting and memorable, and although slightly sad at the same time because you knew you were going to have to go back soon. But all those visits are imprinted on my memory, and they all feature that advert, "Don't Be a Dummy," which was around that time. And I like the way he's saying, and I like the kind of croaky Bowie impression that he did.
Okay, so there you go. Don't Be a Dummy. So I looked into it. I remembered it. So this was just to sort of bring the backstory up. It was Lee Cooper jeans advert in 79, I think it was, where it was sounded like Gary Numan.
Yeah.
But it kind of wasn't Gary Numan, and it was a very popular hip ad, as Adam pointed out.
Yeah.
Then, what actually happened was that Numan recorded the vocal for the track, but he refused to make a longer version to be released as a single. He wasn't interested. So this guy called John Ducan did it. So that was John Ducan on the advert. It wasn't Numan.
But he wrote the song.
Yes, Numan wrote the song. Yeah. Numan did, and his voice on the advert. And then when they released the single, that was this guy, John Ducan.
Okay.
And it scraped into the top 30. I remember it well. But here's the thing, John Ducan. So I looked this up, and then I started to go down a rabbit hole. So John Ducan, he had recorded a couple of punk singles. One was called Throw Him in Jail, and the other was called Where's the Show, which he sings, Where's the Show? But the producer was Francis Rossi from Status Quo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So what's happening here? The guy from Status Quo is recording punk singles with this guy called John Ducan, who's doing this kind of weird Gary Numan advert record thing. So that did make me wonder about this sort of, is there a connection between Quo and punk? I don't actually have an answer to that other than this happened. But there is something a bit punk about Quo. I always have liked early Quo, not late Quo.
Did you see them?
I've never seen them, never saw them. But the early stuff I really liked. Yeah. And I was talking about this back in the days when you could have a proper conversation on Facebook and people were nice.
Good times.
They were good times. And somebody said, I've always thought there was quite a motoric vibe to early Quo. So they've got that sort of kraut rock almost, because it's really repetitive. And they had really good tunes. So, but also they were very down to earth. So I could see where a sort of rock where they might have a little punk kind of. I don't know, just appreciate punk maybe. But also, this was an era, I think, where people were desperately also trying to cash in all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like, what's the latest thing? Can we knock something up in the studio and have a hit and make some money?
Yeah.
Which is essentially, I think, what those two Francis Rossi produced, John Ducan. Throw Him in Jail and Where's the Show tracks, which are actually quite good. They're on. You can hear them. They're on Spotify and YouTube and stuff.
Going back to the Numan thing, did he get paid for that? Was he has he ever spoken about that?
I don't know. I'll have to ask him. I will ask him next if I get to speak to him again, and I'm hoping to.
Do you think
will
he just
ask him
thought it was a bit like too embarrassing?
Well,
or what?
yeah, because it probably would be like a huge sellout thing. I think these days people don't mind about their music being on adverts, but back then that was a massive no. You wouldn't allow that to happen. So, you know, he probably, I imagine the offer came in, it was probably a lot of money.
Well, we did a piece in the magazine not long ago about Massive Attack's Coma.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like the 90s era of cool adverts, you know, where it was like, what's the director of Jonathan Glazer?
Oh, yeah. Sexy Beast.
You know, and suddenly it was the...
he did the video. He
did that video. You know, he did the really famous Guinness one, I think, with the horse and the wave.
Which was a left field track, I think.
Yeah. But you imagine when Numan was doing this Lee advert, it's probably just really shit and like... It
was not cool and hip, I don't think, back then. So, yeah, I'd imagine they kept it a bit quiet.
Yeah.
So those tracks have been described as sort of power pop, new wavy, like the Sex Pistols mixed with Status Quo. So it's definitely worth a listen. They're not terrible. But here's the thing. So John Ducan, who was he? John Ducan was in a band called Atomic Rooster. And Atomic Rooster, I remember them because I had a 7-inch of a track by them called, I think it was called Tomorrow.
Okay.
Which I really loved as a kid, but I didn't know anything about it. I like the name Atomic Rooster.
Yeah, that is a great name.
They were former members of the Crazy World of Arthur Brown. Arthur Brown was the guy who did Fire.
I don't know them.
No, he would be on Top of the Pops or whatever. He had this weird crown, which he would put petrol on, and he would set it on fire
while performing.
For when they did the track Fire.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so it was always causing, you know, things were always going wrong with the Crazy World of Arthur Brown. Carl Palmer was in that band. He was later in Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and he left because Arthur Brown, during an American tour in 1969, went missing, and apparently he'd gone to live in a commune in Long Island, and so the previous drummer quit when that happened. Carl Palmer then replaced him. But it was all a mess, and the whole band just packed in, and he disappeared for a while.
That's hard to believe. Why? Yeah.
Apparently, Carl Palmer was talking to Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones about starting a sort of supergroup, but he died in July 69, so that stopped. So then these guys who were ex-Crazy Brown people formed Atomic Rooster, did one album in 1970. It had the hit, it was called Tomorrow Night. But then Carl Palmer left to form Emerson, Lake and Palmer with Greg Lake, who came from King Crimson, and Keith Emerson from The Nice. I actually met Carl Palmer once.
What was he like?
I can tell you an anecdote if you want.
Yes, please.
So there used to be, I don't know if they still do these, they used to do these things called drum surgeries, where a famous drummer would come along and play the drums, and you'd go to a music shop.
Yeah, I've been to...
Have you? Yeah, okay. Because you're a bit of a drummer, aren't you?
Yeah, I went to see Chris Blackwell.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, massive detour.
So similar kind of thing. So this was ages ago. This was like 1982 or something. And as part of it, they were giving away, on a prize draw, a Simmons electronic drum pad. Yeah. And guess who won?
Really?
It was me. I won a Simmons electronic drum pad, and I sold it. We used it for a while in the band I was in, and then we sold it, and I bought a bass guitar with it.
Oh, God, they'd be disappointed in you, no?
Well, yeah. Sorry, Simmons. So Atomic Rooster sort of ran their course anyway, and John Ducan basically just became a sort of jobbing session player and guy in the scene, and did this weird record, this Gary Numan adjacent record. But here's the kicker. He moved in the late 1980s. John Ducan left London and moved to where? Norwich.
Really?
Where we are now, where he ran a company selling greenhouses and conservatories.
Whoa, that's a crazy story.
He died in 2011, aged just 65. So that's...
Do you know anyone who knew of him? Or?
No, I don't. So if anybody did know John Ducan when he was in Norwich,
contact
drop us a line.
Yeah.
pod@protonmail.com. Podcast@protonmail.com.
We'll put it in the notes.
We'll put it in the show notes. So, okay. We'll have another break after that bombshell, I think. And when we come back, we'll reveal the 7-inch thing and what's coming next. If you're enjoying the podcast, thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate it. And you can help support us just by buying something from our shop. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I said I would reveal the connection between these 4 lovely 7-inch records, and I will, which some of you may have guessed. They are all either connected to or by this issue's cover star, Hannah Peel. How about that?
Very exciting.
Did you see that coming?
What are the singles, though? So there's obviously her issue.
So what we've got is the latest issue comes with this one, which is Hannah Peel and BeiBei Wang, who is a orchestral percussionist. And it's a track called Tiger Sex, and on the other side is Offerings to the Beast, which is taken from the album that's coming out very shortly called The Endless Dance.
It's an amazing album.
Which is fantastic. Tiger Sex on Tiger Orange vinyl. See what I did there? Every month I have to choose what colour vinyl.
This is the quality you get.
Yeah, everything's thought through. It's not just random rubbish, you know. Yeah. This is thought through stuff. So I thought, orange would be good for a Tiger-related thing. The other tracks are, this is Unheard Delia, which is when we had her on the cover for issue 4, can't quite remember, 75, issue 75, on lime vinyl.
Why is it lime?
I can't remember. Can't remember why we chose lime.
There's a reason. There's a reason somewhere.
Yeah, there must have been a reason. And this is what this one does. She put together a sort of soundtrack to excerpts taken from an interview with Delia Derbyshire of the Radiophonic Workshop that was recorded in the early 2000s, I think, which is, again, just really great. This one, this is The Moon is There in All Its Splendour, Part 1 and Part 2 from issue 55.
55, yeah.
55.
Yeah. Oh, there
White
we go.
vinyl.
I'm excited for the last one, what the colour's going to be.
Oh, well, yeah. Could be anything. So this was when we did that issue had the moon on the cover.
Yeah.
It was celebrating the anniversary of the Apollo 11 moonshot. And so this has, again, it's a sort of ambient piece split over 2 sides with recordings from the original NASA sort of chatter with the astronauts. I was listening to all of these this morning. They're so good. Unfortunately, these are both sold out. Yeah. Unheard Delia and the Moon one is sold out. But obviously the new one is in stock. So do buy one.
Grab it
while it's hot. You won't regret it. It's great. And then this one, which isn't strictly speaking her, it's John Foxx and the Maths.
Yes.
On blue vinyl.
64.
Well done. Well done, that, Isaac. She was in The Maths with John Foxx. So she was part of the group. She played some live shows, and she was on this album playing. I think she does some vocals, and I think she might be playing violin. I'll find out later, because Hannah Peel will be joining us for a chit chat. So that'll be good. That's going to be happening over the Zoom or whatever. So I will ask her some deets about that. So if you're not familiar with Hannah Peel, I'll do a quick intro. She's a composer, producer, artist, originally born in 1982 in Northern Ireland. Whose work she sort of moves quite fluidly between electronic stuff and orchestral composition. She's done quite a lot of solo records, quite a lot of collabs, and television and film scoring as well. The family moved to Barnsley in Yorkshire when she was 8, and her father was a folk musician, and she studied at the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, LIPA, Paul McCartney's old school.
Oh, really?
Stop me before I go Beatles.
No, let's dive into it.
So that's nice.
Yeah.
Her first EP, Rebox, was released in 2009, and in 2010 she moved to London. So there's solo records blend analog synths with classical arrangements, and the soundtracks include Rogue Agent, Scoop, and the Midwich Cuckoos, which were all on. They're all Netflix things, and a film, Bring Them Down, which was last year, I think, with Barry Keoghan. He's Ringo Starr.
Yeah.
In the forthcoming 4-film Beatles cinematic event.
I feel for any new listeners, we should say Mark has a what is it?
A strong interest in the Beatles.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
So she's also a broadcaster, of course. She broadcasts on Radio 3, and has done all sorts of interesting projects. So she's somebody who we've followed really almost from the beginning, I think, of her career.
Yeah, I mean, you think about that, what was it, issue 41 you said? 45?
40,
in the 40s, yeah. It's like quite a number of years, actually, that she's kind of been in the orbit of us and us in hers.
Definitely. I last met her at Blue Dot Festival, which I noticed in the piece. They talk about meeting at Blue Dot. When they met at Blue Dot, it was sunny. Right. When I met her at Blue Dot, I was under an umbrella.
Yeah. Was that when she opened it? Was that?
I think so. It was a Friday night. So she opened with the Para Orchestra.
That was amazing.
Which was
amazingly rainy as well.
It was very rainy, but it wasn't was that the very, very rainy year? I can't quite remember whether that was the year after where it just turned into an absolute quagmire.
Yeah.
And that was the last one.
I've never seen mud like that, to be honest.
Oh, it was a shocker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
God. There was
bring back Blue Dot.
It was the best festival.
Yeah.
It was so great.
Yeah.
It's the mix of science and I think that's the thing with Hannah Peel. She loved that festival because she's very into space and science.
It's perfect, isn't it? You know, I mean, that's kind of our, mission statement. For want of a better
definitely
term,
yes.
it makes kind of perfect sense for us.
It was kind of the sci-fi space festival.
And the stuff that Adam Buxton's talking about as well when you mentioned him earlier,
Yeah, exactly.
Robots.
They had R2-D2 wandering around, do you remember?
Yeah.
So there's a high quotient of robots at Blue Dot.
Yeah.
So bring back Blue Dot.
Yeah.
So that's Hannah Peel. That's my Hannah Peel spiel. Thank you. And we'll take a break, and then when we come back, we hopefully will have Hannah Peel, and I'll ask her those questions about these records, and we'll find out even more. Hello, Hannah. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Hi, it's nice to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hannah is on the cover of our new Electronic Sound. And she's done as well a 7-inch, which I was teasing with earlier. Where are we? There we are. The Tiger Sex 7-inch, which on beautiful orange vinyl. And I was just saying, earlier on, I dug out from our archive all the records that you've sort of been involved with us. And there's 4.
Oh,
did you know
4?
that? No. Well, no. Yeah. I suppose I did when I thought about it, because, okay, let's hit them one by one, shall we? Maybe that's a good place to start. So I think the first one
I like this.
Was this, The Moon in All Its Splendour, or was it? Yes, it was, yes.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, that must have been 2017.
I wrote it down somewhere. 2018.
Around the Mary Cassio time,
maybe 2019,
I'm guessing.
was it? Yes, around Mary Cassio, yeah. So talk us through what this one was. This is on lovely white vinyl. Sold out, I'm afraid, so nobody can get it anymore.
I can't remember.
Well, let me fill you in.
Is that really bad?
No, they're splendid. So this is, what you used was some samples from the Apollo 11.
Yes, I did. Yes.
And then mixed it, I think, is this the one with, you used a Jupiter 4, a Roland synthesizer, that is, for the unsynthy in the audience, a Roland Juno 60, I think some brass and voice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember it. That he says something like, "There is the world in all its splendour," or something like that. Yeah, or "There is the earth." Yeah, incredible. Amazing to have access to use that footage and be able to.
Because you've always,
I do remember
been a very space-oriented artist, haven't you? You like all of that stuff. The Mary Cassio project being an example of that.
Yeah, I think it leaves a lot to the imagination, and you can be so super creative and delve into worlds where, it's left to your own devices to how you want to paint that world or what you want to create out of it. I think that's how special it is. I find the same with horror.
Okay.
I know that's a bit of a deviation, but I guess it's the same musically. There's a lot more freedom and ability to go somewhere else, and that's not necessarily down to just the people that you're working with, say, or anything. I think that's just like an openness, a bit like space, because most of us will have never been there. So there's a kind of open palette of how you want to approach that world. We think of space and you think of these kind of huge, obviously, rockets going up there and all the things that they might see and the colours that are projected back to Earth. But the reality is the sound up there is dead. In terms of with gravity and everything else, there is no reverb. So it's quite an interesting. I think you can attach what you want to it, and that's really nice. And the same with horror. There's an element of when you're writing music for horror that anything goes in some senses, as long as it's weird and wonderful and brings on a different palette of sound that maybe you're not used to. With
horror, I mean, you've been doing quite a lot of soundtracks, haven't you? For films and TV stuff, so I guess that's that gives you that area. When I was talking to various artists about doing soundtracks, and I think you mentioned it in the interview as well, you just touch on it very lightly that working for TV or film is, I can't remember the word you used, but it was something like it's quite stressful. It's quite difficult. I think I mentioned before on the podcast. Talking to Neil Hannon of the Divine Comedy, who described doing the music for, which is a bit different from what you're talking about, but he did the music for the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory film, and he said it was like a 2-year nervous breakdown working on that. Can you relate to that idea?
I can. I mean, definitely it's all-consuming to the next level. I think when you're doing records, you can have space and time to run about and make videos and have that kind of luxury, whereas actually with scoring, you're at your desk and you never leave. Like, and that is very fun as well. It just becomes quite tiresome in terms of like physically and mentally, because there is that amount to think about. I've really got used to it. Like when I first started, I did think I'm going to have a nervous breakdown because I didn't know. You just don't realise the level of amount of work. And then if you deliver, like, say, one piece of music, then you could change that up 4 times. And that's either a complete rewrite or doing notes to it, and you have to be open to what other people are suggesting. And then when you're doing records, it's the opposite. It's kind of down to you and what you need to do to make it feel good. So I've certainly trained my brain and body to go more in that way. But it's like everything, it's a different art form. Like you kind of start off thinking, I want to do this, and then actually when you get into it, you go, God, I didn't realise that. And, you know, like you talk to other composers and they're like, yeah, I went to hospital because my wrist had stopped kind of working, or like I get a lot of eye twitches, or like there's always these kind of like, you get to the end of a project and there's something physical that happens where your body goes, enough.
So what is it? What's the problem? Is it having the pressure of the director on your back and telling you think you've finished, and they go, no, we want it different? Or
yeah, it can be, yeah.
Or is it just
really
the sheer volume
I think,
of music that you need?
Yeah, volume. Yeah, and I think I'm more specifically talking about TV. Okay. Because the deadlines are there and there's no moving, because it's such a beast to work with. So it's not down to you. You know, like if you're doing a record and something isn't right, you can go, well, let's push it back a couple of weeks, or let's change this so to allow enough time to get the vinyl printed, for example. But once you're in the role of like this job, it is a job, and like if you don't deliver on time, that's a massive mark against you. Like you're literally disrupting millions of pounds when you're on big shows. So you have to be like super on it. So yeah, I've learned like over time that you're actually more like a head of department, and then you need to bring on people to do stuff and not be shy about asking for that.
Oh, well, so you become a head of department, and you're using other people.
Yeah, and then you've got like an assistant to set up things, an orchestrator. If you don't have time to do it yourself, you need someone to do that, prep the scores, do the recording. Yeah, so it's like a whole team that you're then managing, which I never knew.
Just knocking out a few
I didn't know that. Yeah. So, and when you start off, you kind of think, oh, I'll do this and I'll do that. And I did everything. I think my first show was The Deceived, was for Channel 5. It was Lisa McGee who created Derry Girls, and she'd written a kind of horror, like more like a psychological drama, in an Irish one, and I think it was only 4 episodes, but I did everything. Like I did so much that I was up till like 3, then getting up at 6 again to work the whole day in order to get all the scores done and then record it and then get it all prepped. And now I go, no, I'm going to employ some people to do that. But anyway, we've gone way off topic.
Well, that actually puts me in mind of the other record, the second one, the Unheard Delia record, because obviously Delia, I think, Delia Derbyshire of the Radiophonic Workshop, this record, which was issue 75 on nice lime green vinyl, sold out, I'm afraid. With this one, you used an interview with Delia Derbyshire that was recorded in early 2000, maybe, talking about her time at the Radiophonic Workshop. And it's clear that you share a great affinity with her and probably feel some sort of connection with. And I guess one of the things she talks about actually on this is this idea of the BBC, and you're treated like a sort of machine almost. And you know, they at one point she says the BBC said we don't employ composers. That's not what you are. And you can hear the sort of the frustration she must have felt at that. But yeah, tell us about your feelings about Delia.
Yeah, I really feel for her, because I feel like she was so creative, and to get in the doors of the BBC at that time, and even into a lab, which is what they saw it as, that was a massive achievement. And then she had this wealth of creativity that was almost like stifled, but the fact that she was there was such a massive thing, and she probably realised that, and then hence why she worked into the night out of the hours of what they were required to do. But I just can't imagine having to push. I know what it's like to push and knock on doors when you, especially when you're young and you want to do stuff and tell people what you can do, but it's really difficult to get those doors open. And so I do still feel that kind of like push and pull of like, well, this is possible. It's so much more for her than it is for us now. And I think that's a really great reminder of how far we've come in a relatively, it feels like a long time, but it is a short time in regards to the music industry. So, and as we know it today. So I feel like her music now, I'm so glad that she is this kind of person that we can look to and go, well, this happened, and it's a reminder of like what we need to do and keep on going, I'll keep talking about, I guess, about TV and film mostly because it's the same. It's like 5 to 6% are still only women composers in the whole industry doing
in
major films and TV shows.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's getting, every so often it gets better, and then it goes back down again, and so there is that struggle of like, how do you get to the next stage? What do you have to do? And so even though we're times apart, I love that interview. I think it's really raw, and I had to cut quite a lot out of it that I didn't feel would fit musically anyway. But there's a lot of her with her snuff box and things like that are part of her and her character, but it didn't work on a record. You don't want to hear somebody sniffing the whole time.
So she was huffing snuff throughout the interview, was she?
Yeah.
She was a complicated character, wasn't she?
Yeah, I mean, God, she'd gone through a lot, and so I feel like it was such a treasure to be able to use that. It was originally recorded by Jo Hutton, who works actually for the BBC as an engineer, and she'd just gone on her own to just record this piece with her, an interview, and then she'd actually given it to John Foxx. And John, when I was doing Fairwave, John had actually said to me, if Jo allows it, you should have this and do something with it because it resonates with your record so much. And so Jo agreed to let me have it to chop up. So thank you to John Foxx.
Well, that's you can hear that's on the streaming platforms, that Unheard Delia parts 1 and 2. So they're easily listened to, but you can't get the 7-inch anymore, I'm afraid. But that, mentioning John Foxx, leads me on to this record, John Foxx and the Maths, How, The Last Time I Saw You, on blue vinyl, also sold out, I'm afraid. Nice. Which you were on this record. Well, tell us about how did you come into the John Foxx world? How did that happen in the first place? Yeah,
one of those happenings that I feel like, when you're in the moment, you don't feel like it's life-changing, but then actually you look back and you go, God, that was amazing. And I was recording my very first album with Mike Lindsay, who was producer and incredible, who's actually produced the record with BeiBei that's coming out this year. And he was, this is the last time I've worked with him since doing that record, which came out in 2011. But so I was in Shoreditch in 2010 recording this record with him. It was my very first album. I had no clue, really. I'd been a session musician for quite a few years and played the violin and all sorts. And John was recording with Benj next door, which was the first Maths record. And to get to the kitchen and the bathroom, you had to walk through the back of our studio. So I would be sat there with Mike recording, and then this beautifully well-dressed gentleman would always walk in and, with his gorgeous cheekbones and be like, hello. And we'd always say hi. And then I think when they finished the record, they were like, we need to do something with violin a kind of what do you call him? Plays viola.
Oh, John
Velvet
Cale.
Underground. Yeah, John Cale, a kind of John Cale type noisy sound, but you also need to sing and you also need to do synths at the same time. So I was like, I can do this. But it was like a baptism of fire. I mean, it was such an amazing time because you were in Benji's studio and he had everything there, all the synths. So we were trying different things out and recreating the Metamatic record and you know, like all the synths, some of them were a bit wonky, some of them we had to change out because you wouldn't be able to take them on tour, and it was actually with Benj and Serafina Steer at the time, and she was on bass and synths and singing as well. It was a really gorgeous time, but yeah, I had to learn pretty quickly how to use a synth, and I'd done some very basic stuff before that.
Oh, so that was the, sort of your first introduction to using synthesizers.
Yeah, because I'd only really played keyboard or piano and done a few things, but not like maybe with a vocoder, but nothing to the extent of like. So I learned very quickly what everything does on a synth and how you get a sound.
Probably the best equipped vintage synthesizer studio on the planet.
Ever. Ever. It was just, a toy shop.
That was a crazy studio. I did visit when it was there. It was downstairs. I seem to remember going down into a basement and my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, you just didn't know it was there. Just looked like an ordinary street on the front, and then
every wall just covered with another priceless modular system from 50 years ago. Incredible.
Yeah, it's insane. Like Benj is just one of those legends that we need to treasure as much as possible.
Yes.
I think, like, I don't know if you've seen his meme tune videos that he does.
They're fantastic, aren't they?
Oh my God, like they're the best things ever. Like he was out on Dartmoor playing a keyboard, and then I just think he's just amazing.
If anybody
so funny,
listening isn't aware of those, we'll put a link in the show notes. They're very much worth the watch. They're so good. You never quite know. They sort of like
TV or something.
A 1970s Tomorrow's World sort of thing, and you think, is he joking? But he's kind of not. It's sort of who he is.
Tongue in cheek.
He sort of knows what he's doing, but it's so earnest at the same time. It's brilliant. Yeah, well worth a watch.
Yeah, he told me he was in the same class at uni with Damien Hirst.
Oh, really?
Okay. He was like fine artist kind of world. So I would say, he's taking the piss, but also like showing off the wealth of every synth. And it's amazing the amount of time it must take to put those videos together and use all that equipment. And I mean, he's just a genius. Like, I hope to work with him again. I haven't worked with him for ages. And sadly, my violin has not come out of its box for at least 4 years now. So John keeps asking if I'm going to record on the maths, and I'm like, I just don't think I can.
I know violin players, if they don't play, start to think that it's just unbearable to them if they haven't played for a while.
It is. It's unbearable. I can't hit a note without thinking this is out of tune. It's horrible. So I don't know. So I don't think I'll be on any future maths records just because I can't bear to get my violin out.
So I assume there's no violin on your new record then?
No, certainly not.
So this record, which I don't want to cannibalize our cover feature too much, which goes into quite a lot of depth as to how that record was put together, but just a little intro maybe as to how this came about, your relationship with, is it BeiBei, is it pronounced? BeiBei Wang?
BeiBei,
She's an orchestral percussionist.
Yes.
And it's an incredible record of this sort of combination of her playing, which is explosive and unexpected, and the sounds that she's making, and then the things that you're doing. This track's Tiger Sex, which is on our 7-inch, not sold out. So get along to electronicsound.co.uk/shop and you can pick a copy up. It really lets loose. It's great. I was dancing around the office the first time I heard it. So, so how did that come about?
Yeah, she is, energy. She's a ball of energy, and especially on stage. And so we were doing a recording called Neon with the Manchester Collective. I wrote them 15 minutes or a piece called Neon. It moved 3 movements and they performed it live. And in the recording of that record, she was there and we met, and I just really liked her. And she said, I really got what you were writing about. Like, it was based in Japan and how the neon lights there were an art form, but they're dying out as an art form. And so we just got chatting, and I was just like, what else do you do? And she said she did these like water concertos and paper concertos. And I just thought, you are so playful. This is really fun. So just in 23, I just said, oh, look, I've got this show at King's Place. Do you want to just turn up with all your amazing stuff and I'll turn up with mine and we just see what comes out? And so we did it. And it was like, I think there's like gigs up there that are the ones that kind of turn your life around, and that is one of them.
Wow.
And just that freedom, not having to be led by any kind of formula or script or backing track or anything, just the fact that you could go up there and make a noise, and if it's wrong it doesn't matter because that's part of it. There is no wrong. And so it was just so freeing. And so we did actually we always recorded our shows no matter what gig it was, so we had an idea of like what was working and what we wanted to develop more. And so we just finally, after a couple of gigs of doing this, went to a studio and did 5 days recording in Real World, and just played for hours and hours. And then I sat with the files for 6 months kind of going, this is too much. Like, I don't know where to start. I tried a couple of things and I was like, no, it isn't working. So I knew it needed a producer that was quick on the feet, like dance, really good at dancing around a room and would add as much creativity to it as we did. And so I asked Mike Lindsay if he would like to be involved, and he was like, yeah. So we sent him a couple of the files, and he came back with 2 tracks, and one of them was Tiger Sex.
Excellent.
And so he'd built it from the sessions. So they were called like Monday morning, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning 1, Wednesday morning 2, and he'd just taken one and then chopped up samples and kept all those little voices and hiccups and all that kind of stuff in, which I had not thought to do, and that gives it that beautiful human element.
When you were at Real World, did Peter Gabriel pop his head round the studio door?
Not that time, but I have been there before when he's been. It was like a drama where a swan got trapped underneath the building because it's an old mill, and it had gone down where the water would have gone down where the wheel would have been, and it got trapped. And there was like 3 fire engines that turned up to try and get this bird out, and he just happened to be there with his dog. So I ended up having a chat with him then. But he did give his approval for this record, so that was amazing. Really nice. If somebody like that says, yeah, this is good, you kind of go, oh, God, that's amazing.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I think we've explored the records that you've made with us. And as I say, I'm kind of amazed how far back we go and how much we've actually done. So that's we're very delighted to have you on the cover of this one with this fantastic record. So thank you.
I have to say, you do know it's my favourite magazine. It is like up there at the top. I love it. I love what you do. I love all the articles. There's so much to read in it. So I always appreciate the support that you give me. I think it's really amazing.
Thank you very much. I'll obviously no one in the room can hear what you just said, but I will be sharing it with them immediately when we stop the call. But I know you've got a very busy day. You've got more to do. But thanks so much for sparing us some time. And we'll see you hopefully at your Barbican Hannah Peel Festival in October, is it?
Yeah, Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be amazing.
That's just quickly. That's like is it a whole weekend or is it just one day of two nights?
2 nights. Yeah, and I think there's possibly some other bits happening around during the days of those. We're still figuring that out. But the first night is these 2 amazing dancers, ballet dancers, came and said, we want to do a ballet of Mary Cassio. And Steve and I met them in the sunshine a couple of years, well, not even a couple, probably like 4 years ago, and said, yeah, sure, we'll do whatever you want, thinking we'll see how that goes. And they have made the most beautiful story and dance, and it's gorgeous. So, and they got the funding from the Arts Council to develop it and put it on. So that's happening with Touchwood, as far as I know, a live brass ensemble as well. And then the second night is BeiBei and I on stage. So we'll see how that goes.
Can hardly wait. Get your tickets, people. Is it on sale yet? Okay.
It is, yes. I've been very slack with advertising it, but I will start doing it at some point when the album's out.
Lovely. Okay, well,
thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, and she'll speak again, no doubt. Well, that was great, Hannah Peel. Thank you very much for talking to us. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you'd like to read the full interview, you can pick up a copy of the magazine from electronicsound.co.uk/shop. Comes with the 7-inch, which I can't recommend highly enough. And keep listening. Thank you for listening this far. Like and subscribe. See you next time.